Right, everyone. Today we have a special guest, Cherise. It took me a minute to say her name, trust me, but she's got an amazing story to tell, and she's coming to. So, how you feeling?
Nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your story is absolutely amazing. Your whole journey, really, and where you ended up today. Takes back to the beginning. Tell me about your rebel self, because I've had some little bits from your sister, and
so I think I was about 15 and I started hanging around with older people around like peppercorn lunch way, so like the mum unit.
The mum unit, peppercorn.
Yeah. Hang around there, and ended up meeting like boys from London and Birmingham and stuff like that, drug dealers. Just,
these were all within the area that you were hanging around with?
Yeah, so like Station Street was mainly where they were, well, I'm getting at that time when I was that age, and just started like hanging around with them and getting involved in them. Then met some girls around my age, and then they were involved with them as well, and just
were these guys older?
A little bit. I don't actually really know how old they were. I never really knew like their real names or
okay, so just street names that they were using.
Yeah.
What was it that enticed you to want to be around them?
I think it was the attention.
Yeah.
At that age, I just wanted attention off anyone. So yeah, just that. So
when you'd gone down there, was it easy for you to fall into that type of people that you were mixing with?
Yeah.
It was, yeah?
Yeah.
How come it was so easy for you to?
I think because I was a young girl maybe, and that I didn't really, I think I'd just listen to whatever they'd say, so I was vulnerable and gullible, and yeah, I think they just took advantage.
So I was just about to say that you feel like they took advantage, kind of groomed you in a way, started grooming you from the offset, or was it just?
Yeah, it wasn't really like, it would be just carrying stuff, and then...
When you say carrying stuff, because a lot of people that watch this won't know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah, so like carrying the money or carrying the drugs.
So
they'd give me money here and there, and I'll be like, oh, I'm getting money, or whatever.
Was that money for you to spend, or was it just money for you to hold?
Spend.
Yeah, of course. At 15 years old, you've got a load of boys that know how to handle themselves visually on the street.
Yeah.
And giving you money is kind of enticing.
Yeah.
At the best of it, like you're getting brand new things, especially if you can't buy that stuff yourself. And a lot of times I've noticed that when elders or people that are running drug lines or criminals that are in the activity, they do tend to flaunt a lot of money to try and get girls to get the girls, and it gives you availability to them for them to be able to give you and hold weapons, drugs, so on.
Yeah.
Was that something that happened to you?
Yeah. So I was used as a carrier. I don't really know what you would call it. I'd just basically walk around with them, go, if they were suspicious of someone, obviously at the time I didn't know, but they would send me to get the money or to give them the drugs.
Wow, the danger they put you in.
Yeah, and I didn't even think, obviously, because I was young. It would be like, so I think I was about 14, so I was still in school, and I went to Westbourne, so there was an alleyway by Westbourne, and after school they'd want me to meet people. So there was one day that I went to school that I had drugs in my bag.
All day at school?
All day at school, because they wanted me to meet someone at school.
What kind of drugs did you have?
It's heroin.
Wow, that's pretty hard at 14.
Yeah, so I had that in my bag for the whole day, and that made me really nervous, but I still met them afterwards and kept hanging around with them.
So the drugs, the heroin that you were selling, was you selling them to elders or was you selling them to...
Older people. Yeah.
So none of the kids at the school?
No.
And they just
none
meet
of my
you down
friends at the school knew. either what I had on me or who I was talking to. I had one friend who knew, but she didn't go to the same school as me. She went to a different school.
You were the perfect girl that held the drugs all day in a place where you possibly could have got caught. You kept quiet. You didn't tell no one close. They must have really took you right in under their wing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how was it for you at like 14, selling drugs to people that are fairly way, like you say, heroin?
I didn't know what heroin was. I just thought it was the same as weed. I didn't know at that age it was something that I got older, and when I moved away and was living in a drug house and seeing people take heroin and crack and stuff like that, I did not at 14 realise what that could do to someone.
I know exactly what you mean. My brother, he was, I call him a functioning drug addict because he still managed to keep family and job. But I didn't know the damage of heroin until I'd witnessed it myself. So I know how I felt then. But you being a girl is a little bit different. Like it's not like a sexist thing. I promise you that. It's just like for a man to see it. And for a girl to see it, a woman, a lady, it is very much like different because I'm not saying that you was naive because you was 14 years old selling heroin for boys or men, but I'd imagine that it was quite shocking for you to witness that on a daily basis. Yeah. How did you feel after witnessing and living in a drug house?
I was about 18 at this point.
Yeah.
That made me feel uncomfortable a lot, and I think there was months and months that I didn't sleep because I didn't know if someone was going to come to the house or someone would try and do something to me in the bed that I was in. So that was a really uncomfortable time, but at that point I was too scared
when to go home. When you say in the bed you would do something, would you mean like rape?
Yeah, I was scared that would happen or...
Man, you definitely had some mixed emotions then.
Yeah.
I'll say I couldn't imagine like sleeping in a room not knowing if I was going to get raped or not. Yeah. It's I know we briefly went over your story when I tattooed you, but hearing you say it, like I feel you. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. How was that for your mental state? Like not sleeping, working like all the hours to go and handle these wayward people?
I don't really know because I didn't really get to see my family, so I don't, from an outsider, I don't actually know. It was like I wasn't there. I was physically there, but I wasn't actually mentally there, so I don't really know how I was feeling. So I think I just turned everything off. Because at the point of 18, I'd had from 14 to 18, I was in quite a bit of situations. So I'd learned how to just turn it off.
Shut off, yeah.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. Did you? How many of you is there? Not in the deal. Your siblings. How many of you is there?
6.
There's 6 of you.
Yeah. And
you shut yourself off from all of them.
Well, I didn't live with the other 4 that I have. It's just me and my sister. But I was close to my sister that I lived with, and there was one point I took her with me. I took her to my friend's house, and some boys were breaking into my friend's house while I had my little sister there. So I made her run back to my nan's on her own and stayed to help my friend. But after that, I think that's when I moved out of Ipswich to try and, I don't know if it was to protect her or to stop her from falling into the same situation.
Yeah, I mean, taking your sister down there was, especially on that you went to know that the house was trying to get broken into.
Yeah.
But that could have gone so many different ways.
Yeah.
I'm sure you realise that.
Yeah.
Now. How was your sister after that? With towards you, as in was she like, you need to stop this, or did it have the same effect on her as it did you, with like the rush of it, or the just closing herself off?
I think she got scared, but I don't think we've actually really sat down and had a conversation about it.
Really?
Not properly, about how she felt.
How did your relationship go after that, like with your sister? Because she would probably have known what you was doing, but to actually feel that fear and witness, and you standing like a soldier and telling her to run off, you know, and staying there to help your friend, she must have thought you was like just crazy, or like, you know, because that's not normal, is it?
No. I think we're really close now.
Yeah, no, I can tell.
But at the time, I'd pushed myself away from my family. So for a few years, I was distant from everyone. So I didn't really give anyone an opportunity to get in.
Mm-hmm.
I kept everyone at an arm's length.
Because you'd hurt them, or just because your situation hurt them?
I didn't know. Mm-hmm. I didn't trust myself, and I didn't trust my situation.
Yeah. I think like the distance that you put between you and your family at that given time was definitely a wise choice, because you know, like things like this does stay with you, which you know, and you know how it is to live with things like that. From that point on, and you said that they were breaking in and you'd stay there to help. What happened on that time?
So I think people across the road got involved, and it just de-escalated. They got into the house. When they got into the house, my sister was there, so I got her out. Then I went back in, and I think they were just drunk and they were being stupid. They knew the girl that lived there, and they were just trying to wind her up, I think. But yeah, just didn't really escalate to anything.
And this was your daily life, was it? Just
not
being
always.
Amongst it?
Yeah, it was. There were days where I'd go and meet other friends that didn't know. So it was kind of like I was living a double life.
Yeah.
So I had the friends that were involved in the drugs, and I had the friends that were going to college, and that I was supposed to be going to college, but I'd never show up to college, and I was always getting pulled in different directions. So I'd have days that I would be a normal teenager and go and see these friends and talk about boys and stuff like that, and underage drink or whatever, but then you'd go back to the other life.
How'd that make you feel, like transitioning from both?
I think I started envying the friends that weren't involved.
Yeah.
Got a little bit jealous the fact that they were going in a good place, and I didn't see myself. I always thought that I would die before I was 20.
Wow.
So I never actually saw myself after 20, and I saw them getting lives, getting married, having kids, whereas I thought I'd never have kids, I'd never get married, I'd be dead at 20. So
What made you feel that? Was that like you thought you'd be dead by 20 because of suicide, or just just the life that you was living?
Suicide, or the life I was living, that somebody would kill me.
What kept you, like, what kept you? Because I know everyone's got that kind of part of their brain that sits there and goes, oh yeah, I don't want to get old. Like, my brother always used to say, don't let me get old, bruv. Like, he sort of always say that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if hindsight was given, he would definitely prefer to get old now, do you know?
Yeah.
But there's always that fear of getting to a certain age, and yours was a young age to get to, 20 years old. You were saying that you didn't think you'd have passed. Like, you know, what was it that kept you in that life for you to be able to think like that? Because did you think like that when you was with your other friends, when the ones that you envied? Did you feel like you could live past 20 when you was with them?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really think about bad stuff when I was with them. It was more when I was with the other friends. It weren't getting old. It was the things and the feelings. I think I at that age I was really emotional, or had felt every feeling, and the way that I was feeling uncomfortable and scared, and just made me feel like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, and that I felt like I couldn't, because I was such a you can't say anything kind of person, and I felt like I had no one that I could tell. It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
So
sure.
that was what made it hard.
Was it really hard for you being a woman in that lifestyle?
No. I think I might be a woman, but I think I've got like a man's mentality.
No, I get that.
I feel like it wasn't. No, I feel like being a woman, I had more advantage because I was a girl, and I did go unseen quite a lot.
We've had this, like when we're doing a lot of like youth work and stuff, and we've noticed that there's a lot more girls getting involved in the county drug lines and just the criminal underworld that surrounds the states, you know, and they're calling themselves trap queens, and they've got these hierarchy like names now, and it's become somewhat of a badge-ridden society where you know, girls are taking a very high stance in the criminal underworld with being able to carry, groom, get people in, you know, and things like that. So I just wanted your outtake on that and what you thought and where you thought your status was within.
I think you feel powerful. But you don't actually think about the consequences, how it does affect you as a woman. Like dating people. If you wanted to date anyone, you couldn't date anyone. You couldn't have friends for too long. If they weren't in the same circle. So, but you do, for a short while, you do feel like you're powerful and untouchable. I think that's obviously why I got to the position that I was in, because I thought I was untouchable. I had all of these older people around me, and I was protected. But no one's actually protecting me from them.
The queen of the manor. It must feel like at that point, like when you're living that when you're walking through the room or someone turns around and says, "Well, they say, who the fuck are you?" and then they'll be like, "No, don't do that." That's. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, I wasn't on that level.
No.
No. I was just like a little.
Yeah. So was it all just for like getting away from your life then, or was it like making money, or was it love? Like
making money, getting away from my life. Adrenaline. I think I quite like the excitement as well.
Of being bad.
Yeah. But
Did your family try to intervene? Did they?
My mum tried to get as much support as she could. I think I left home when I was about 15, but I was back and forward. And my mum tried to phone social service or child supports and stuff like that. And by the time, I'm not actually 100% sure what my mum and my sister said, but I think they were saying to her, because of the age I was, that they couldn't actually help do anything. But she multiple times she tried to get me to come home. I did go home. There was one time I went home. I don't even know how old I was, but I'd gone home. We was in the car with my mum, her partner at the time, and my sister, and quite a high up drug dealer that I'd pissed off. Tried to run off the road, my mum off the road when she was driving. So I think a couple of days after that I left again.
Just to keep them safe. Yeah, so I can feel your intention on why you would disappear from that manner, but it's what did you do to piss the drug dealer off, to run your family off the road? I was
dating one of his runners, and his runners took a whole lot of drugs and money and went to a different town, and I went with him. So
it's like you robbed him too, but you didn't. You just followed for love. Well, not love.
What I thought was love.
Yeah, at that time. Yeah, we all got different versions. I messed up a few times. Trust me.
I obviously really annoyed him.
So now you've got your parents and your family in danger for the second time. Not that it's been your fault. It's just you're following what you thought was right. So your family's been in danger now twice. Running off the road. That's crazy. How'd that make you feel?
Obviously scared, but scared for them, not for myself. I was like, if anything was going to happen, I'd rather it happen somewhere else to me, where they not in the same town that they live in. So I think that's another reason why I stayed where I was. And then I met the boy that done this.
Yeah, that's when I've met you, you was quite free on talking to me about it, and I was saying how powerful I felt that you've become as a woman. Your story is absolutely amazing, and you've definitely lived and come out. It's when you told me, I was in absolute shock because how strong I've met you as a person.
Yeah.
So you met this guy. Is this the one that robbed the other drug dealer?
No, this is a different. So the ones that robbed the drug dealer, I'd got away from them, and I decided that I was going to go to uni in the town I was living in.
Yeah.
I was living in a youth hostel,
yeah.
kind of thing. Made some friends, and I think it was the day before I was supposed to start uni. I was working in like a little hairdresser's as well, so I'd got a job, had somewhere to live, made some friends. We decided that we was going to go out, and we were walking through the town centre, and we bumped into him. And he was handing out leaflets to a party that they were doing through uni.
Well, like a house party, or just like?
No, it was in a club.
Okay.
But it was like for uni students.
Yeah.
So me and my friends were like, "I will go," and he was like, "Oh, I hope I see you there," and stuff like that.
The talk,
yeah,
the chit chat, they get you going. Yeah.
Ended up going to this party, and he was there, but I didn't really speak to him that much. Then a few days later, I bumped into him again, and he was like, "Oh, didn't see you like talking to me and stuff." Exchanged numbers, and then for about a week or two, I'd bump into him a lot,
Mm-hmm.
like. Where I lived in Portsmouth, so it was really big.
So you moved from Ipswich to Portsmouth?
Yeah.
To start your uni, or
yeah.
to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where the drug dealer ended up. So we'd gone from like Kent, South London, and then ended up in Portsmouth, and then that's when I had left them.
Was it easy leaving them? How did you manage to leave them? Like,
they got arrested, and as the police was raiding the house, I jumped out of a window and just ran and kept running, and I don't even know where I ended up. And then I saw this number on a piece of paper that was for like a woman's refuge.
Yeah, I grew up in women's refuges.
Yeah, so I phoned that number, and they took me in that night.
Yeah, nice places, isn't they?
Yeah. I met a woman that dated Peter Andre in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then because of how young I was, they put me into like, it was like a YMCA, but it wasn't. It was for quite young people.
Yeah.
And then I ended up in there. So I had no money, knew no one, and
you
had no ID.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So what was it like having none of that stuff and then waking up the next day? How was that feeling waking up the next day?
In the women's refuge. I woke up surprised that I was waking up, because I thought, when I was running, I thought that someone was behind me.
Yeah.
And I just kept running, and I thought if it was the police that's behind me, or it was the people, the drug dealers, like thinking that I was tipped the police off or something. So I had all of this stuff going through my head. So I woke up the next morning, I can remember waking up, looking at the ceiling and thinking, how am I still here?
Did you get that rush, like, now my life's going to start, or was it just like...
It was like, I'm done with all this, I'm not doing it anymore. I think I was about 18, I think. So I was like, that's it, I'm going to do something for my life and stuff like that.
And you signed up to university to do... Business?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd started that and it was all good.
Yeah.
Then you met this guy.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
So I kept bumping into him a lot. And I stayed friends with one of the women, well, a girl she was a little bit older than me, but she was really close to my age, at the women's refuge.
Yeah.
She'd been given a flat, so I'd stay around hers a lot and see her and whatever. And I had his number, but he was the only person that I knew that was driving. There was one point I was at this girl's house, and she had loads of friends around, and they were taking coke and stuff like that. And
So you like almost landed straight back in.
No, I don't want to be around this. Mm-hmm. And then one of her friends started being really racist and saying really racial things to me, and talking about how she got pregnant with a black person and that she was punching herself in the stomach because she was like, I could never bring a black baby into this world and stuff like that. So I wanted to. She lived on the outskirts of Portsmouth. And
you were just sitting there and listening to her say all this.
And I was like,
do you feel like that was directed at you?
I don't. Because I'd been drinking, I felt like really uncomfortable and I didn't really know how to feel.
Yeah.
And I was in somebody else's house with a group of people that I only knew the one person in there. So I felt.
Was you the only mixed girl in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like it was directed.
Yeah. So I felt really uncomfortable. So I called him to come and get me, and he came, and then he was like keying her car as we was going, and
so he turned up. Was you just like emotionally just broke out to him, or
no,
was it just
like the girl in there was like really racist and made me feel really because he was like, why did you want to leave?
Yeah.
Because he was at a party, because we'd been texting during the day. It was close to my birthday, so he thought it was for my birthday, but I was like, no, it was just, they were just drinking. So he like keyed her car and then took me to this place that I was living, the hostel thing, and then just left. He was like, right. I was like, thanks for the lift, and then he was gone. And then the next day he was outside and he had like a bunch of flowers and stuff. He was like, I just wanted to make sure he was okay, and I was like, well, I'm going back to Ipswich.
That could have put you in a position as well, though, because then when we refugees, they don't like men there, do they?
No. Oh no, I was in the youth.
Oh, in the youth
centre
there.
Yeah. So I'd gone to Ipswich for my birthday.
Yeah.
And he was just like phoning me the whole time I was there. Like, when I came back, went back from Ipswich, he'd left like a gift at reception with like alcohol and chocolates and stuff in. So I was like, oh, he's really nice and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, especially after the journey that you'd been on, having someone show that they care must have been a real big thing for you.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, living in a halfway house, and he'd come to your rescue at that point with it, and then he had no hesitation with keying the car for you.
Yeah.
That was all a ploy to show you that he was probably the one.
Yeah. So we got closer and closer, and I found out that he was in uni.
He was in uni?
Yeah, he was in uni. He was on a different part to me. I stopped going to uni, and I can't really remember why, but I started hanging around with him more. And the more I was hanging out with him, I realised that he never went to uni, even though he said that he was in uni. Then he would start asking me about my life, why I ended up being in Portsmouth, and I was telling him about like the drug dealers. And then he started to show interest in that, where the houses were, where they'd hold their stuff and stuff like that. And me not thinking about it, I would tell him where these houses were, and like tell him who their main. So they'd have like obviously a crackhead. Basically, that would be the main one. That would be the link to the other ones.
Yeah.
I'd tell him where he was, without even thinking, because I thought he's in uni. He's not really. He's just being like
excited to hear that. Yeah. When people watch films, they're like,
So to hit with this time when I was talking to him about it, I thought, oh, he doesn't really know about it. Like, I'm exciting to him because I've like experienced this. I told him like what happened in London. Like, there was a time when I was in London and my car got the car that I was in got shot at. So I was telling him about that, and he was like really excited about that. I wanted to know like where it was and
why did it shot at?
The driver was a drug dealer, and I'm guessing he went into someone else's territory. I don't actually know why
that
happened. Yeah. Then we just got closer, and he told me to come out of the hostel and move in with him. He was like, we'll get a penthouse, like a flat thing, and we'll stay in there. And he was like, but you have to put it in your name. Like, we'll rent it, but you need to put it in your name.
Yeah.
Because I've got mine or whatever. So I've got this penthouse, whatever. And then he was like, oh, my friends are coming down, so they're going to stay here as well. And then when he started saying that and then these friends turned up, I knew that he wasn't who he said he was, and that he was already involved in drugs.
Yeah.
There'd be nights that I'd be lying there. I started talking to a couple of the boys that were drug dealing that I knew before I went to Portsmouth, because they'd set up in Portsmouth, and told them. So then they became a rivalry between them and him. So I was kind of stuck in the middle. They were like, you're with us. And then he was like, well, you're dating me, you're with me. So this went on for about a year and a bit. I'd be stuck between him, stuck between them. And then...
was you in like danger from either side then?
I didn't feel like I was.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever showed me that I was.
Yeah.
Now that I look back on the relationship with him, I realise that I was in like a domestic violence. He controlled everything that I did.
Yeah.
So we'd moved from this penthouse to another, like a student accommodation.
Yeah.
But it was a split house. So it was, we'd have the bottom and then his friend had the top, who was actually in university.
Oh, right.
So we'd live there, and I made some friends with some girls who were in like a drug dealing ring, but a different one. But I made some friends with them, and I'd go out with them, and he would hate that I went out with them. There was a time that a boy looked at me when we was walking through town, and he called his friends, and they were like, push this boy down the alley, and I don't know what they did to him, but he said it was because he looked at me, but I don't know if it's because he was like another drug dealer or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that was getting a bit wild. But he'd lock me in the flat, so I couldn't go out. It got to the point where he wouldn't let me come back to Ipswich, and I wasn't allowed to come and see my family.
How long did this go on for?
About 9 months.
And did your family have no idea, like, that you was living this way?
I don't think they did. I'm not sure.
Because I mean, it's still within the in the drug fraternity, the criminal world, but you was no longer safe within that community. You're now a victim, being locked in the house. Yeah. You're being told what to do, and you're accepting it through fear.
Yeah.
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 Did you ever reach out to anyone about it? Like your friends that are living in the same world?
No. They just kept telling me to leave them. And then the day that I built up the courage to say it's it, and he was like, fine, I took a pregnancy test, and I was pregnant.
Wow, how'd that make you feel?
Look, I wanted to go home. When I found out that I was pregnant, everything in me was just saying, you need to go home. Mm-hmm. So I said to him, I'm pregnant, but I don't want to stay here. I want to go home. And I'd gone home for about 3 days, I think. When I found out I was pregnant, I was quite far. I didn't realise, I think I was nearly 5 months. So I was quite far along, but he'd said he phoned me and said he wanted to work things out for me to come back to Portsmouth because I had stuff there anyway. And he said, you can come and get your stuff, we can talk on the ride home from Portsmouth to Ipswich, which is like 4.5 hours. So I agreed. I caught the train and my sister was saying, don't go back. She was like, please don't go back. My mum was like, don't go back, don't go back. My nan was saying, don't go back.
Did so when you went back, so after you told me you was pregnant and you wanted to go back, he just let you go?
Yeah.
And then you went back?
When I told him I was pregnant, I was in the friend's house that he chucked the water over.
Right.
So I was in their house. So from theirs, I left and gone to the train station. I actually phoned him when I was on the train.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get out.
So he thought you was going to go back home and you just...
I was already on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, going.
Yeah. And then you got home, and then is that when you told your sister and your mum, like, the stuff that's been happening to you?
No, I still didn't. They had a bad feeling about me going back.
Yeah.
They didn't want me to go back. And then my nan has never said anything about me being up there, and she phoned me, and my nan's quite old, but she phoned me to say don't go back when somebody told her that I was going back.
How that make you feel hearing from your nan? Because normally it's your sister and your mum.
Yeah, when she phoned me, I then knew something was going to happen. So when I was on the way back there, I already knew that something bad was going to happen to me. I got to the train station in Portsmouth and went to get on the train to come back home, but he was there.
Oh.
So I was actually going to turn around and come all the way back. Then he took me to the apartment and was getting like all my stuff together, and he was like, we could buy a house. I found somewhere in London that we can live. We can get away from all of this. So he was packing all my stuff. I just realised there was something. So before I'd gone back, when we was living in this apartment, there was a boy that was in there, and they'd hide money in like this big teddy that I've got. And
Teddy?
Yeah, I had like this big, huge teddy. I don't even know where I got it from. But they'd slit it open and they'd hide money and stuff in there. And money had gone missing. And they blamed me because it was my teddy and it was my flat.
Right.
But it wasn't me. So they made me and this boy fight, like in front of everyone, to prove who it was. So they'd make him hit me and then make me hit him to prove, like to see.
And I guess he had to hit you.
Yeah. And then I had to hit him. And then they burnt his hand on a stove. So because there was so much going on that night, I can't remember, like, it was like all in slow motion, but I remember they taking him into the kitchen and putting his hand on the stove. And then the boy that I was with took me out of the situation, and he said, oh, I don't think it was you. Like, it was him and his friends. He's like, I don't think it was you, but his friend, who was crazy, he scared me from the moment I met him. He was absolutely crazy. He was like, he thinks it's you, so I think you should just keep your head down for a little while. So that happened.
Was this a lot of money that went missing for this?
I don't know. I don't even know how much it was. I have no idea how much it was.
Did you feel like it was going to be your hand next after, like, he's hit you, you've hit him?
Yeah.
Like, how long did this go on for?
It felt like ages, but I don't think it was that long. It might have been like half an hour.
How many times
but I
did you
remember there
have to
was
hit each
like
other?
loads of shouting, and he hit me once. I think I hit him once, and then when I hit him, I had knuckle dusters in my pocket. So I hit him with the knuckle dusters. So he'd like daze away.
Knuckle dusters in your pocket?
I had to protect myself. So yeah, I always had a weight, something on me to protect myself. Because if it wasn't going to be him, it was going to be girls. I've got scars on my ankles from where girls glassed me. They're rowdy down there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Portsmouth off the list.
They are quite rowdy down there. So yeah, that situation happened, but that had something to do with when I went back and being pregnant, and he was packing my stuff. So when we was packing my stuff he was like, "Are you hungry?" And I was like, "No." And he drove to McDonald's, and he was eating the McDonald's, and he started asking me about the money again, saying like, "Did you take it?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, did you know that the boy took it? Did you help him? Because it was just you two in there. And I was like, no, he was in the front room, I was in the bedroom. Whenever anyone was in the flat, I'd lock myself in the room and just stay in the room on my own. And then he was like, "Oh, eat something, eat something." I was like, "I don't want anything." He was like, "But you're pregnant, you need to eat something." And he started biting chips and then chucking the chips at me. And then this couple, an older couple, I think they might have their grandchild or a family member with them, kept telling him to stop and to leave me alone. And he was like telling him to shut up and to mind their business. Then he like dragged me out of there and we went in the car.
So this was happening inside McDonald's?
Yeah. As well, he had my friend's car. So my friend that lives in Ipswich, who also kept trying to get me to come back, who I went to school with.
Come back to Ipswich or come back to
Ipswich.
Yeah.
He kept trying to make friends of him so he could try, I don't know, not make friends with him, but so he knew him to try and protect me.
Yeah.
And he kept trying to get me to come back, and then the boy that I was dating and my friend switched cars, and I can't remember why. So we were driving back in my friend's car, and my friend had my boyfriend's car at the time. So he was like, "I need to meet your friend in London to give him his car back." So he's like, "I need to stop in London." I was like, "Why?" And at this point, it was like 10 o'clock at night, and he's like, "Are you tired?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Should we just stay somewhere here?" And I was like, "Not really, I'd rather keep driving and just go home."
Yeah, get it over and done with.
Yeah, he pulled up to a park in London, I don't know where it was, and got out, and I was looking in the mirror, and he'd met somebody, and this person gave him a plastic bag. So I was like, well, that's not my friends, and that's not exchanging cars. And then he got back in the car, and he's like, "I need to show you this flat that I found, where me and you could live. It needs like some work done." And he drove me to this big high-rise like block of flats, and took me into this flat, which was, the windows were broken, so pigeons were in there, so there was like pigeon poo everywhere, and it smelled horrible in there.
So there was just rundown flats then that like no one really lived in?
Rundown flat. So I think it was a flat that they used to have parcels or whatever delivered there. They didn't want in like of someone else's name, or whatever. And he was walking around this flat, and it was like a 2-bedroom flat, and he'd be like, the baby's room could be there, our room could be this could be the living room, the kitchen, we could have a new kitchen in. And he was like, "Oh, and the bathroom." And as he was walking into the bathroom, my hands were like beside me, and he'd like put his hands on my waist, and then started pulling my hands behind me.
Yeah.
And I didn't even really think about what he was doing, and then I felt something go up my arms, and he like pulled my hands behind me.
So your hands were
tied me. And I was just like, "What are you doing?" And he sat me on the edge of this bath, and then like saddled me, and was sitting on the edge of my legs. And I was like, "You're heavy, like my legs are really hurting." And my hands were behind me, and I was wobbling. And he said, "I need to do this to prove to you that I'm being serious." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he grabbed my ear and had like an army blade and just sliced my ear off.
He cut your ear off?
Yeah. So he had it and just sliced it off, and instantly I just felt sick, and then I could feel all of the blood running down me, and I think I just had like all of this adrenaline, so it was pain, and then everything just went cold, like my whole body just went cold straight away, and I just had this pain.
What was you thinking? Because you can't put your hand up because your hands are tied.
Yeah.
And he's just cut your ear off.
In my head I just thought, this is it. So I just sat there and didn't say or think anything.
This was it, you're going to die?
Yeah, I just said, this is it. And that my brain was just like, this is it now. And I think in my head as well, I was like, because I couldn't do anything, it was like, it's fine. Because you can't do anything, you can't go nowhere. Like, he's on you, you're tired, Then he tied up my legs, so I could not go anywhere. I didn't know where I was. He'd locked the bathroom door and the front door, so I didn't know how to get out, and there was no electric in there, so it was completely dark. And I think he used the light of his phone. He had his phone like perched up on the side.
What do you think he meant to you when he said, I need to do this to you to prove to you? What do you think he meant that he wanted to prove?
I don't know. I don't know if he wanted to prove to somebody else that he actually wanted to do it. I don't know if he was recording when he had his phone perched up on the side.
Do you think he'd done it for the guy who...
His friend?
Yeah.
I do. When the things that afterwards that he was saying, I think because he said to me in the car, if it wasn't me, it would have been him. So, and I think I would have rather him been him than his friend anyway.
Yeah.
His friend was scary. But yeah, cut my ear off, put my ear on the side, on the sink. I don't know why I remember that so vividly. Like, that is something that's always clear in my head, is that he put my ear, and I was just looking at my ear, just sitting on the side. It had no blood or anything around it. It was just there.
Did you believe that was your ear?
No, it just looked like a piece of skin. It just looked weird. But because it, like, I don't know if you've ever had, it just like burnt and then went cold. So it's like, it didn't feel like he'd actually done it until I looked in the mirror and saw that after everything.
Yeah.
So that was like 1 o'clock in the morning that he had done that. Then he started interrogating me about the drug dealers that I was friends with, where they lived. He wanted me to tell them where their like trap house was and who their supplier was and all of that. And I just sat there the whole time, not saying anything.
Did you find that strange? Because when you first met him, you'd already told him everything.
I didn't tell him everything.
Oh.
I just told him, I didn't tell him who I was there with or who they were, so he didn't know that. I would never have done that. I just told him the situations I was in. I told him about the crackhead houses, but never about where their actual houses were. So I'd never give up where they were, because they'd never done anything to me. So if anything, to me, they were like family.
Yeah.
To me, so. And they never put me in a situation where I ever needed to feel scared. If anything, they always protected me and always helped me if I needed help.
Yeah, because you were saying that the people that you were scared was the other people, not the people that you was with at the time.
Yeah. So yeah, he was interrogating me about that. Then he started interrogating me about money, again, about the money that had gone missing, about if the baby was even his, if I was dating anyone else. And at that point, I was sat silent, and when he started saying that, it got me really angry, because I was like, how could I date or see anyone else when I'm always locked up in house, or if I'm not locked up, I'm with you. So I never had an opportunity to see anyone else. I was always with him, or he always knew where I was. I was always in his facility. And then he started, it just kept going back and forwards, like, who are the people that you worked with, where are they, where is the money, did you take the money, just all of that. Then he started getting angry with me because I wasn't crying or I wasn't screaming. I can remember he kept saying, you don't need to be a soldier, and in my head I was thinking, I'm trying to get away. I don't want to be anything. So
much fear that you just couldn't cry, and you were just trying to figure out a way of getting out.
Yeah. So that, I think it went on, as he was doing it, he was slicing my face. So he had like, like a razor, you have the little blades, the changer one. He had like a little silver blade, and he'd just, every time I wouldn't answer, he'd just slice my face. Every time I was sitting there and not acknowledging him, he would just like slice or whatever. This one he done slowly, because he put it in and he was like, I don't know how you can just sit there and not say anything. And as he was saying it, he was just like dragging it down. So I knew that this one was going to be a big one because I could feel it.
That's right, your temple as well.
Yeah. Then like my nose, my head. Then I started swaying, and I was like, I'm going to be sick. And then he started getting angry with me. He was like, you've got my baby in there. You should have ate something. You're going to be sick because you've got my baby in there. And again, in my head, I was like, you're talking about your baby, but you're doing this.
Yeah, so it's talking like you caring, like trying to care. You should eat because I told you to eat like McDonald's.
Yeah.
And then cutting your face at the same time. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, I can't work that out.
No, yeah. I couldn't. I was confused. So he pushed me like over to the toilet, and I went over to the toilet and started being sick. But obviously, I hadn't eaten anything that day, so nothing was coming out. And he was like, I need to get you some water. You're not going to be able to bring anything up. You should have ate. I told you should have ate. So like for a second he was being caring. Then I don't know if I passed out or just lost my balance, but I fell and was laying on the floor. And he was trying to pick me up. And then he started interrogating me again. And then at this point he started cutting all of my feet. Because I don't know how I had no shoes on, so I don't know if he took my shoes off
when you'd passed out.
Yeah.
And your face would have been bleeding quite extensively.
Yeah.
I mean, having like you were saying that you had all your forehead and your nose and stuff. And this would have been going over this would have had blood going over your eyes.
Yeah. In
your mouth.
Yeah.
Leaning forward to be sick and trying to be sick. You must have just been losing.
Yeah.
Like. What did you feel when your face is just bleeding and you're being cut and you've seen your ear on the side? Like, did you just think you're going to die, or
I just thought that was it, and I just turned my emotions off. I just didn't feel anything. I didn't want to feel anything because I didn't want to feel scared, or I didn't want to feel.
You didn't want to feel it, or you didn't want to show him.
Or I think it's. A part of me didn't want to show him either. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction that he was making me. I think because I met him as well, I felt like I always had to put off the persona that I was really strong.
You are.
Yeah. But yeah, so I had to, I think it's just something I taught myself to do, is just turn it off and get through it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you woke up.
Yeah, and he was.
You've got no shoes and socks on.
No.
And he's cutting your feet.
Yeah, he was.
Top or bottom?
The bottom. So all of the bottom. I had to learn how to not walk again, but kind of how to walk again, because he cut tendons on the bottom of both of my feet. So I couldn't. After in recovery and I had to go home, my mum had to make me a bed downstairs because I couldn't do stairs. I couldn't.
You want to say that? Did he like? Was he meaning to do it, or was it just for the camera to just show that he's done it all? But then when you're saying like he's cut your ear off and he's sliced slowly like that's torture. And then your feet were deep because it's really hard to work that out for me. But it happened to you, and you're pregnant with his baby at the same time, and it's like, you're going through some horrific torture.
Yeah.
So you were fully conscious when this was being done on your feet, or you woke up to this?
Well, I think he'd done. I don't know if he'd done a couple, but I woke up and he was still like asking me questions, and obviously I weren't answering because I was passed out. But then I still wasn't answering. Then as he was trying to pull me up from my hands tied together, he started slicing my hand, and he sliced my hand so much there that they had to repair my tendons in my hand. He sliced all of the top of my hand, so this one here was hanging off, so I don't have any feeling in this top of the finger there. Then when he eventually pulled me up, I think I might have tried to fall again, and he pulled me so hard my stomach smashed into the bath, and I was saying to him like, that really hurt. Then he was like, well, it's your fault, you shouldn't have been trying to get away. And I was like, oh, I wasn't trying to get away. I was like, I can't stand on my feet. He put me on the side of the bath again, and then I can't remember how far I was, but he put the knife into my leg and like put his hand like that. I was like, if you don't start answering the questions, I'm going to put this in your stomach. And then he put it to my stomach, and at that my first instinct was like, no. I was like, don't do that. Then I don't know if he got a text or something went off on his phone, and he looked at his phone and he was like, get up. And I was like, I can't get up. He tied me up, and he then untied me, and he picked me up and carried me out of the house and carried me to the car, which was my friend's car. So my friend's car had
there was
blood.
no one had seen you being
no.
like...
So this was 4 o'clock in the morning, so he'd done it from 1 until 4.
Wow.
Was for constantly slashing me for all of them
Did it
hours.
feel like 4 hours?
No. It didn't feel like that long.
It felt short.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it was that long. He'd put me in the passenger seat, and I had no energy, so I couldn't move. I just laid there, and he put his jacket over my face and over my head. So when he started driving, I thought, when he put the jacket over me, I thought I'd died, and I was just seeing what was happening to me. He drove, I can remember having like the jacket, so like one of my eyes were out so I could see the surroundings, and we drove to somewhere that had loads of trees and stuff, and I was like, he's going to bury me here now. And I don't know what he did there. I think he might have got rid of the knife, or he's got out of the car and done something. Then he got back in the car, and then he started talking to me. The sun started coming up, so I don't really know what time it was, but a shop was open, so he went to the shop and he went and bought me a pack of cigarettes, some cream, plasters and antiseptic wipes. I started trying to clean my face and was saying sorry as he was doing it. It was like, got these antiseptic wipes and it was stinging, but I just laid there, and he was like apologising and wiping my face, and then that's when he said, if it wasn't me, it would have been the other person. Then he was like, I don't know if he got into like a panic mode, and he was like, I don't know where to drive you now. He was like, he kept saying, don't let your family come after me. Then he was like, we drove to an estate, and when we got to this estate, he started taking photos of me on his phone.
Do you reckon that was for proof?
Yeah. And then he said, he started saying about the money again and asking about where the boys live, and he was like, don't lie to me because I'll just end it now. I'll leave you here on the side of the road. And I just looked at him like I just didn't care.
Other than death, there's not really much he could have done to you torture-wise that you haven't come and got through that whole ordeal.
Yeah.
Do you think that if he never got that text that he would have sunk the knife?
I don't know. When I was in there, when he pushed me and I fell and hit my stomach, as I looked in the bath, there was already blood in the bath, dried blood. And that at that point, I thought,
torture house.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is going to put me in the bath now. Because I remember at a point where he did try to get me in the bath, but like I'd put weight on myself, so he couldn't actually get me in there. So I did think if maybe his phone, or I don't know what it was that went off on his phone, I did think that I wasn't going to come back out of that house. But then I just kept getting really confused because when he was driving me around, so it was like 4, I think he drove me around until 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the end. And all of them hours, all of that day that he was driving me around, it would flip from him being really sorry to saying, oh, where do these boys live? Where did you have the money? Did you cheat on me? Did you do this? Did you do that?
And a lot of people would have just caved in from the first offset, like of being, and you never give no one up. You know what I mean?
No.
Like,
well, after he cut my ear off, I thought, what was the point?
Yeah.
Like, he'd already disfigured me. What was the point?
Was you thinking about your physical attributes, like
No.
when this was happening?
No. Because I don't think when it was happening, because I couldn't see, I don't think it actually, even after I did see, it took a long while for it to sink in that I had this happen to me, because I thought nothing like this would ever happen to me.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything like, or I didn't think anyone would want to do anything.
And him saying, like him jumping from emotion to emotion of being like, you know, someone that seems like they'll cut his baby mum's ear off would be worrying about repercussions from your family.
Yeah.
You know, don't let your family come after me, and then straight back into where are they? I'll end it here now. It's kind of confusing for anyone looking out in.
Yeah.
But for you, you must have just not known what the hell was going on for all of that time.
No.
When did you manage to get free from that?
So he drove me to an estate in Hertfordshire. It was about 3 or just before 3, because above the mirror, I was driving, I don't even know what that mirror was called. The centre mirror, yeah. There was like a little clock.
Yeah.
So I could see, I looked up and saw the time. And he said, I'm going to go and get help. He's like, I'm going to go get your friend's in London, I'm going to go get him and get help. So he'd taken my phone off me hours before, when he was supposed to be driving me home, he'd taken my phone off me, because he said that his phone wasn't working. So I already didn't have a phone anyway. He'd got out of the car, and I just remember my eyes rolled back, and I just passed out.
Loss of the blood.
Yeah, so then I came around, and it was about 4-ish, but there was loads of school kids walking past the car, looking at me, and just walking past. And I had all of this blood over my face, so I don't know what these kids were thinking.
Was he in the car still next to you?
No, he wasn't back. He didn't come back. So at this point, I was like, I can get out.
Yeah, I can't imagine that, like, Hertfordshire be a very, like, a place where you'd see regular stuff like that. You know, for kids just to be walking past.
There was people walking past me. I had quite a lot of it. No one helped me. Even when I got out of the car, I went to walk and forgot about my feet and dropped to the floor. And so it was maybe from that wall to there, there was a phone box. So I don't know if he'd intentionally left me near the phone box. But so I tried to walk and I fell. And I was like, I need to get this phone box. So I like called myself to this phone box with one hand, because this hand was all like
cut up and stuff. Yeah,
cut up. So I tried to get this to the phone box and not realise, or I just dialed my dad's house number without putting the 01473, and obviously I wasn't in Ipswich, so it went through to this lady. She was like, hello, and I was like, I don't know who this is. So I hung up, looked in my bag, and I had 20p. So I put the 20p in, and as I was trying to dial, I just couldn't think of what I was doing, even though I just dialed the number. So I just dialed 999, and they said, what's your emergency? And I just said, he's cut me up. And then they were like, we're going to send an ambulance and we're going to send the police. And I can remember as soon as she said that, she was like, where are you? And I was like, I'm not from here. And she went silent and said, stay on the phone with me. And when she said that, I heard sirens. So it was literally, I was round the corner from a police station.
Wow.
So they came like really quickly. I'd dropped again when they got there. And they were asking me, like, what's your name? Who did this? And I wasn't saying anything.
Was this calm information, or was you erratic when you was like...
Just calm. Just calm the whole time. They said, where are you from? I had my provisional in my bag. And they were like, you're from Ipswich. They're like, we have to ask you, are you a prostitute?
Wow.
Because at the time, the prostitutes were killed at that time. I think it was around the same time that they were going missing, or so they asked me.
In Hertfordshire?
No, in Ipswich.
In Ipswich,
yeah. That was around the same time as that. And I was like, no.
Oh, so the police were, because you're from Ipswich, they were wondering if you was one of the prostitutes from Ipswich. Okay.
Yeah, that if I'd fled, that if it was linked with that. And I was like, no. And then I just remember waking up in hospital bed after that. They put me into this hospital. They'd called my mum, and this lady came out to me with her phone and said, I'm calling your mum so you can speak to her. She's like, you're just a baby, you shouldn't be here. And I spoke to my mum, and then my mum was like hysterical on the phone, and I was like, Mum, I'm okay. I was like, I'm obviously in hospital. She's like, I'm on my way. Then she spoke to the nurse again. The nurse was like, we're moving her because she needs to go to a special unit because of the extent of my injuries. They were like, that she needs to go to the plasto something. Yeah,
for plastic surgery.
Yeah, so I had to go to the Royal Free Hospital, and they moved me there, and then I was in the hospital bed, and I still haven't seen myself at this point. So.
And was you like wondering like what has happened to you? Because obviously you can see.
I could see my hand, but my hand was covered in blood, so I couldn't actually see, and I could see just white.
Yeah.
So I could, So I didn't really, and plus had no energy, so I didn't really want to. I just laid there, and then I could hear my mum and my dad and that coming down. I could hear my mum say, "Where is she?" And I could hear them coming down, and they walked in and they burst out, and I was like, started laughing, and I was like, I'm alright. I was
literally just about to ask you, what was your feeling like? How did you feel when you heard them? Is that when you broke and then you just said I started laughing?
So when I get nervous, I laugh.
I figured that out now. I
can't help it. I just laugh when I get nervous, and so I just laughed. And then it's the first time that I ever seen my dad cry.
That must have been hard.
Yeah, and he just looked at me, his eyes just, so I was like, it must be quite bad then. If they're looking at me like I don't look like me. I don't even remember if my sister was there. Yeah, she was there. She was really young. She would have been like 15, 16. I think we obviously had conversations and stuff, and the police came, because my mum was there, the police came and was like, can you get her to talk and tell us what happened? And my mum was like, you need to tell them what happened. And then my mum was like, it was him, he did this, like she told him, and I was like, Mum, don't.
So you were still protecting him after everything he's done to you?
Yeah, so I didn't want to say anything because I just didn't want anything, I just wanted to be over it. I would have happily ended that and just got on with my life, just moved on and not said anything and just carried on. So I was in hospital. I think I was in hospital for a week or maybe just over a week, and they took me for a scan to see the baby, and when they put the thing on, they were like, the baby's gone. And then that was the first time I cried. I just remember putting a blanket over my head. I was just crying and crying, literally cried for like the rest of the day. My mum was crying, and then they asked me, they were like, do you want to bury or do you want to cremate the baby? And then my mum was like, I think that's too much to ask her. And then they said they could take it for testing, so I could donate the baby to scientific. So I said, do that. So I didn't want to put myself through like thinking about having to bury a baby. I think that is when I was like, maybe in my head I was like, if the baby's still alive, I've actually got something to live for.
Yeah.
And then
almost giving yourself
a little bit of hope.
A hope and an excuse for a purpose.
Yeah.
You know, to hang in there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that you kept yourself strong because you knew that you was going to be a mother. And then when you find out, I guess all that come rushing, and that's why you cry when you found out you'd actually lost your baby.
Yeah.
That all of that you've taken had that outcome.
Yeah.
And come to you at once.
Yeah.
It's sad, and I'm sorry you had to go through that and experience that. Yeah. So you've said your baby's going to go off now to science to find out the cause of death, or just from science?
I never heard from him again, so I don't know what they did or anything like that.
So where's your journey from now? Like you've been through all this horrific torture. You've lost your baby. You're now back in your family's life. He's now out of your life.
Yeah. So he went missing for 2 weeks. He went on the run for 2 weeks after.
Mm-hmm.
He then handed himself in. So for 2 weeks, I was just thinking he's going to come and finish me off.
Did he know that you'd lost the baby?
I don't know. I don't know if he knew until court. In court, it was obviously brought up.
Did you have a visual of him in court?
I was there. He was
Sometimes
there.
you can be behind the screen though, can't you?
I sat so I could see him.
Yeah. Did you feel like he felt like sorry for what he did, or
no?
And when
he did not. No. In court. So after the court, when the plea and when he got charged or whatever, he stood up and looked at his sister, and him and his sister was like, "See you soon, bruv," and he was like, "See you soon, sis." Like, they don't care. No, they just didn't care. Even though I was sitting there with stitches, or no, I think my stitches might have gone by then because the court was a few months later. So, but it was all still fresh. Mm-hmm. The court went through every detail of what he did, and his family, one of his friends got up when they were talking about the baby and what he'd done to, how he cut my ear off and everything. His friend got out and walked out, and I think it was a 3-day trial. It went on for 3 days, and his friend never came back again after that. But his sister sat through. I don't think his mum and dad were there, but his sister sat through and literally was giving me dirty looks the whole time.
Yeah, I think when it comes through family or any trauma like that, even though and I went through this with my brother's court cases, how do people come to a court case for people that know that they've killed somebody else and stand there and support them?
Yeah.
And you've got that whole innocent until proven guilty factor, which the solicitors love to use and court love to use. It's a really hard fixed emotion as to wondering why people would support people that do crimes like this. It's hard to understand. It really is. But family, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how I see it on that. So you're in court. You've gone through all this traumatic experience, and did you get the outcome that you wanted from doing this?
He got life, and then he pleaded, which then took it down to 4 years that he got.
So they give him life in prison.
Yeah. And then he appealed it.
And then they give him 4 years.
Yeah.
On how did they work that out?
I don't know.
Did you appeal it back?
I think my mum did, because I just didn't want anything to do with it. So I think my mum appealed. No.
So we get information from his sister.
Mum didn't find out until the newspaper, even if I came to the door and asked how she felt about being appealed.
Oh yeah, so yeah, we didn't find out until he actually appealed and got approved.
Oh really?
Yeah. So
was this on the first appeal? Because you're allowed 3 appeals, aren't you? Was this the first appeal that this happened? And
I think
it
was the second appeal. Yeah, I think it was the second appeal. But then he done something in prison which extended his time, and then he got put into a mental prison.
Yeah.
Because in court we found out that he'd actually been in a mental home before and attacked a nurse. So he was already mentally unstable, obviously, which was very clear. But he was mentally unstable when I'd met him.
And you didn't know? You didn't know?
No, I had no idea. But yeah, but he still sent people after me.
Whilst he was in jail?
Yeah, 3 occasions I had his friends try to harm me in Ipswich. They came here.
They come from where they lived down here just to get you?
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
It made me feel unsafe, but then I was like, I'm not leaving again because I already left because of someone else, and I got put into a worse situation. Then I had my family and friends as well protecting me. I had friends that I'd met after that when we were out at Fire and Ice. So next to Fire and Ice is that road.
Fire and Ice is a local club that was back in the day really good.
Yeah, that was the weapon.
Yeah.
We'd gone out there and along the road, Lower Brook Street, or where the kebabs are, we were walking up there, and they tried to knock me over. And one of my friends
in a car.
Yeah, one of my friends pulled me out of the way, and I had my sister was there as well, so I had her boyfriend at the time shouting at him, and everyone was just like protecting me. And I felt then I was like, I don't need to leave. Like, I have family and friends here.
I feel like you had that from the very beginning.
Yeah, but I didn't see
your
it.
rebellious stage allowed you to just shut yourself off from that.
Yeah.
And finally finding that out for you must have been really nice. Home.
Yeah. Yeah. Do definitely feel safer and at home here now.
And how are you now with life?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're learning again, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I'm doing a lot of mindset training.
Mindset training.
Yeah. So learning about myself, if anything.
Yeah.
I'm hopefully going to go on another course and do childcare. So you had children, got married.
Yeah. So you found love.
Yeah.
You had your family.
Yeah.
Good. Children how many?
2.
2 children.
Girl and a boy.
Yeah, and a boy.
Yeah.
The package is real.
Yeah.
It's good. And life is good with you now.
Yeah.
And this obviously is going to live with you forever.
Yeah.
And I hope that talking about it has helped you, and I hope it helps others as well. You know, I've got nothing but respect for you from the day I met you, and sharing your journey to help raise awareness is absolutely amazing. Keep doing you, and we're here to support you all the way, and I know your family are as well.
Yeah.
You're a wonderful woman, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Like really. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah.
No? Well done, you.
Thank you.
That's all right.